days of Elijah, declaring the word of the Lord.
Welcome to Love's Last Call with Evangelist Carol Ann of Agape Light Ministries. Please open your hearts to hear an anointed message that will encourage and empower you to walk in the love and light of God's Word.
Beloved, we have reached part 4 of the timeline of the beast system, and today we pick up where we left off in our last segment with the year 1979 and FEMA, which stands for Federal Emergency Management Agency. I believe that this effort has been directed by the Holy Spirit's leading, not only to solidify the reality that there is, without a doubt, a one-world order that has been pushing forward down through the ages and leading to its complete formation, which the enemy has been purposed to create since the moment that pride entered into his heart, and he became determined to usurp the God of all creation and to rule in his place. But more importantly, it offers stark confirmation to God's prophetic word of truth that is clearly revealed to us that there will be a global empire in place during the tribulation period. And as we follow the timeline leading to this revisited Tower of Babel, it becomes very clear that we are only prophetic minutes and even seconds away from its final completion, which means that in spite of the mockers who challenge the nearness of the Lord's coming, the rapture of God's true church is very near and even at the door. And with that blessed hope to encourage us, please allow me to pick up with 1979 FEMA, and I'll start at the beginning for continuity. FEMA, which stands for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is given huge powers. It has the power, in case of national emergency, to suspend laws, to move entire populations, arrest and detain citizens without a warrant, and to hold them without trial. It can seize property, food supplies, transportation systems, and can suspend the Constitution. Not only is it the most powerful entity in the United States, but it was not even created under constitutional law by the Congress. It was a product of a presidential executive order that was signed by Jimmy Carter on April 1st, 1979. A state of national emergency could, for example, be a terrorist attack, a natural disaster, or a stock market crash, or anything that FEMA deems to be an emergency. Here are just a few executive orders associated with FEMA that would suspend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. These executive orders have been on record for 45 years and could be enacted by the stroke of a pen. Number 10995, right to seize all communications media in the United States. Number 10997, right to seize all electric power, fuels, and minerals, both public and private. Number 10999, right to seize all means of transportation, including personal vehicles of any kind, and total control of highways, seaports, and waterways. Number 11,000, right to seize any and all American people and to divide up families in order to create workforces to be transferred to any place that the government sees fit. Number 11001, right to seize all health, education, and welfare facilities, both public and private. Number 11002, right to force registration of all men, women, and children in the United States. Number 11003, right to seize all airspace, airports, and aircraft. Number 11004, right to seize all housing and finance authorities in order to establish relocation designated areas and to force abandonment of areas that are classified as unsafe. Number 11005, right to seize all railroads, inland waterways, and storage facilities, both public and private. And number 11921, authorization to establish government control of wages and salaries, credit, and the flow of money in U.S. financial institutions. Other countries are following this same blueprint under different titles, but it is all laying the groundwork for the final and total control of the Antichrist when he comes into power. 1991, George Bush Sr. praises the New World Order. President George Bush Sr. praised the New World Order in a State of the Union message where he is quoted as saying, "What is at stake is more than just one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order to achieve the universal aspiration of mankind based on shared principles and the rule of law. The illumination of 1,000 points of light. The winds of change are with us now." End quote. Theosophist and occultist Alice Bailey used that very same expression, points of light, in describing the process of occultic enlightenment, giving homage to Lucifer, who appears in his deadly deceptions as an angel of light. June 1991, Bilderberg Society in Baden-Baden, Germany. World leaders were gathered for another closed-door meeting of the Bilderberg Society in Baden-Baden, Germany. While at that meeting, David Rockefeller said in a speech, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and have respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries." End quote. October 29, 1991, David Funderburk. David Funderburk, former U.S. ambassador to Romania, tells a North Carolina audience, "George Bush has been surrounding himself with people who believe in a one-world government. They believe that the Soviet system and the American system are converging." End quote. May 21, 1992, Henry Kissinger. In an address to the Bilderberger Organization meeting in Evian, France, former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger declared, "Today, Americans would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told that there was an outside threat from beyond, whether real or promulgated, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all peoples of the world will plead with the world leaders to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with the scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being that will be granted to them by their world government." End quote. Even then, the groundwork was being laid for the alien deception that is gaining great momentum in our current day, as well as setting the world up for that one special leader who will save the people of Earth from all their fears, namely the Antichrist. 1993, Second Parliament of the World Religions. Their banner says it all. Parliament of the World's Religions, the Global Interfaith Movement. A second Parliament of World Religions was held in Chicago on the 100th anniversary of the first convocation. Like the first convention, this one sought to join all the religions of the world into one harmonious whole. Traditional beliefs of monotheistic religions, such as Christianity, are considered incompatible with individual enlightenment and must be drastically altered. End quote. July 18, 1993, NAFTA. Council on Foreign Relations and trilateralist Henry Kissinger wrote in the Los Angeles Times concerning NAFTA, which stands for North American Free Trade Agreement, what Congress will have before it is not a conventional trade agreement, but the architecture of a new international system, a first step toward a new world order. End quote. 1994, Global Governance for the 21st Century. In the Human Development Report published by the UN Development Program, there was a section called Global Governance for the 21st Century on page 88. The administrator for this program, James Gustav Speth, was appointed by Bill Clinton. The opening statement of the report said, "Mankind's problems can no longer be solved by national government. What is needed is a world government. This can be best achieved by strengthening the United Nations system." End quote. May 3, 1994, Bill Clinton signs Presidential Decision Directive 25. President Bill Clinton signed the Presidential Decision Directive 25 and then declared it classified so that the American people cannot see what it says. The summary of the PDD 25, issued to members of Congress, actually authorizes the President to turn over control of U.S. military units to UN Command. March 1995, Global Taxes. UN delegates met at the World Summit for Social Development in Copenhagen, Denmark, to discuss various methods for imposing global taxes on people of the world. September 1995, HARP. Popular Science magazine described a top-secret U.S. Navy installation in the state of Alaska called HARP, which stands for High Frequency Active Aerial Research Program. This program beams powerful radio energy into the Earth's upper atmosphere. One of the goals of the program is to develop the capability of manipulating local weather using the techniques developed by Bernard Eastlund. The program has been underway since 1990, and it is said that it is already in use in our current day. September 27, 1995, State of the World Forum. The State of the World Forum took place in the fall of 1995 and was sponsored by the Gorbachev Foundation, located in the Presidio in San Francisco. Foundation President Jim Garrison chaired the meeting of who's who from all around the world, including Margaret Thatcher, Maurice Strong, George Bush, Mikhail Gorbachev, and others. Conversation centered around the oneness of mankind and the coming global government. However, the term global governance is now used in place of the New World Order, since the latter has become a political liability, being a lightning rod for the opponents of global governance. 1996, Our Global Neighborhood. The United Nations 420-page report entitled Our Global Neighborhood was published. It outlines a plan for global governance. It called for an international conference on global governance in 1998 for the purpose of submitting to the world the necessary treaties and agreements for ratification. 2003, State of Emergency. The world is on the verge of another global war, the state emergency looked for by the one-worlders to impose martial law and the universal microchip under the skin. And beloved, in the 21 years that have quickly passed by, bringing us to the day in which we are now living, in the year 2024, the gauntlet has been carried by such organizations as the World Economic Forum and its Great Reset, which is essentially the new one world order that is patterned after the fascist Nazi regime, the UN's Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, the World Health Organization's global control over all medical decisions in times of emergency, and the ecumenical movement that is being spearheaded by Pope Francis and joined by many who name themselves evangelical. And that is just to name a few. The bottom line, beloved, is that we have reached the end of God's prophetic calendar that has been marking his timeline that was set before the foundation of the world. While Lucifer, in his futile attempts to usurp him by rebuilding his Tower of Babel, Antichrist global empire, has been falling right into the trap set before him. in fulfillment of all that the Lord God has already determined will take place as the end of this age quickly approaches and eternity unfolds its tapestry into forever. And this is where we'll have to pause for now. But we have much more to cover, so I pray that you'll join me next time, unless we meet the Lord together in the air first. In closing, I leave you with the glorious exhortation of Luke 21:28. Now, when these things begin to take place, straighten up and raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. And as always, beloved, I bid you his agape.
You've been listening to Love's Last Call with Evangelist Carol Ann of Agape Light Ministries. If you have a prayer request, please contact us at Agape Light Ministries, P.O. Box 6313, Chesterfield, Missouri 63006, or via our website at www.agapelightministries.com. Again, that's www.agapelightministries.com.